The ZA Tech Show is made possible by Vodacom. Power to you at vodacom.co.za. And by BlackBerry. Love doing business on your BlackBerry smartphone at blackberry.co.za. Good evening and welcome to the ZA Tech Show episode number 199, recorded on Monday, February the 20th, 2012. My name is Simon Dingle. Good to be back with you. I skipped the last two shows, Sam and Brett looking after you respectively in those, but it's good to be back. Got a fantastic panel lined up for this evening. Let's introduce you to them. Stafford Masie is here.
I hope that's not sarcastic.
Serial entrepreneur. Hummingbird of the South African IT industry.
Hummingbird. Oh, that's so cute.
You used that before because you.
I have never.
You fly around from project
You have used
to
that
project.
about me before.
It's good to have you back on the show, Stafford.
Thank you. No, it's such a pleasure being here. I wish I could be here more often, man.
So do we.
Yeah.
Well, you can stay here if you want. There's a fridge. You can use that.
And then we'd all have hairstyles like you have right now. Mine will be slightly worse.
Hey,
though.
there's showers. We have showers. There's our showers. Hey. No. Oh, okay, there's showers next door. Camera guy knows where they are. You can ask him. Stafford Masie. Craig Wilson is here from techcentral.co.za.
Good evening, Simon.
Hello, Craig Wilson.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, well, I see the gym is incredibly popular. So either there are a lot of chubby staff at Vodacom or a lot of unfortunate people who live in Midrand.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which it
both.
is.
Or
Or
both.
people are just trying to be healthy.
Or they're
Maybe.
just trying to be healthy. Perhaps maybe I'm just being a cynic.
Noble pursuits. Yeah, it's a busy gym. There's a gym right next door to the ZA Tech Show studio. I think they just all come, so they're hoping they could sort of
You know what I think?
bump
I think
into you on the way up the stairs.
But you know what I think, Craig?
I saw
think
Craig Wilson.
I think it's a huge opportunity. I think we should do like a run. I think we should do a Runkeeper replica and put Fitbit clones on every single one of them. And then
Preferably
Wow.
without them knowing.
And then we'll do a big data thing with them where we'll correlate all their health data and we'll give the gym averages of blood pressures. And how's that? I mean, I think that would be a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, not terribly interesting.
And once Discovery gets hold of it, they'll tie your premiums to what
Exactly.
you're actually doing what you're saying.
Once the actuaries latch onto this
My favorite
data,
thing about all these running
it's all
and
over
sport
for
apps
overweight mid-range
is
people.
never mind Discovery. You can't lie to yourself.
Yes.
I love these running apps because you can't say, "Oh, I did 5Ks," and you kind of limp 3.5.
Yes.
Yeah. Especially when you post them to sort of social media and there's a map
Yeah.
and people can go and look and see, he stopped at the ice cream shop. Yeah.
This whole quantified data movement, loving it, but there's a lot of defining that needs to happen.
Quantified self.
Quantified self, sorry.
Okay,
What did I say?
quantified self. You said quantified data.
Oh,
I don't know
quantified
what
self,
quantified
sorry.
data
It's
is.
been a long day and you've given me wine.
No, quantified self is I think it's fantastic because that's the beauty of quantified self.
Yes.
There is no quarantining. It's all about capturing human behavior. I mean, people are capturing not just their biological information on
Yes.
quantified self. I mean, if you go take a look at quantifiedself.com, they're capturing everything.
Yeah.
They're capturing route that I walk, steps that I take,
Yes.
books that I read. So it's quantified self is bigger than like a Runkeeper, Fitbit integration,
Yes.
Nike thing.
So I
You
went
know?
to an interesting, when I was in Sweden last year at Good Morning 2012, one of the other speakers was Sarah Orfel, who's, and I'm not pronouncing her name correctly. Sorry if you're listening, sorry. But she's head of R&D at Bonnier, and her whole talk was about your body as an API. And some of the apps that Bonnier is planning in the space. She spoke about the Jawbone app. There's also the new Nike Fuel Band, which looks pretty cool. And all great ideas and all lots of fun. But, as Craig was saying, like, what are you doing with it? How useful is it really? Is it making
No,
you,
you guys
know?
are missing the point. Remember Kevin Kelly? Kevin Kelly started this whole movement, right? He's behind quantified self.
Okay.
I won't say he started. I think he's more the momentum builder.
The
His
focal
name.
point.
Yeah,
The
and
catalyst.
it's. I don't think it's about that. It's about it's gathering data. It's like
Yeah.
when you have ambient awareness, when everything speaks to everything else, and you
Okay.
capture. I'll give you an example. If you put a sensor on top of a taxi,
Right.
and that sensor picks up atmospheric particle density.
Okay.
So how many particles of pollution there is in the air. And we gather
Alright.
all that data.
Yeah.
It's about building an API around that data so someone else will hack it.
So-
it's not about
Okay,
you
but what
doing
are they
something
going to
with it.
do with Stafford slept 8 hours last night? And
Dude, imagine you could correlate certain things and discover that, people in a certain demographic were getting ill with the same sicknesses because they were walking
that
the
I
same
get.
paths. And I think it's not about having an outcome. It's about gathering the data and building an
I'm
API.
with you there. I'm absolutely with you there. But what I'm saying is a lot of defining needs to happen at the edge of that equation. We're starting to get the middle of it right. The actual data gathering is happening, but we're yet to see the cool stuff that we can do with it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
But you're right. So
Some of it in particular too, like your own running data or bloody Foursquare information. My God, if people could just stop posting
Okay,
that.
that's-
This is my
that's the silly
request
stuff.
to you out
Hey,
there
man,
in
Foursquare is
ZA Tech Show
useful.
land. Well, perhaps for your family or, if you think you've got a cheating spouse. But I really, really don't care that you checked into the CNA in Killarney Mall. I really, really don't. I wish people
But
would
who
stop
tweets
posting
that stuff?
Well, it's a good question, I suppose, because I stopped following them when they do.
So Foursquare is very useful for leaving hints for other people, for recommending things at restaurants, for telling people to avoid bad businesses. Foursquare is great for that kind of stuff.
but it's speaking about something. Right? It's
Okay.
speaking about a broader thing. I mean, there's a couple of movements that are coming together all at once. IBM was in the big, smart city movement.
Yes.
And that smart city movement cost the city $8 billion. Right?
Yeah.
Now it's democratized. Right now, you can run around with Arduino sensors. I mean, the stuff. Give you an example. I believe. Let me say this, and I'll work my way backwards. I believe that you can sustainably change human behavior, not by legislating or placing down laws. I believe you can sustainably change human behavior by showing people data about the consequences of their actions in real time.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. If you put up a speeding sign and you say 60 k's an hour,
Yeah.
and people drive past it and they see in real time the radar says, "Hey, you're doing 80," people slow down.
Okay.
They
Right.
do exactly that in Australia, I'd like to say.
So it's about what is the consequences of your existence and your actions in real time. Now, I'll give you an example. One of the engineers that works for us was a guy that ran around with Arduino sensors, and he ran around there's a flood line in all the sewers in New York.
Yeah.
If the
I love that example.
if the sewers go above, that flood line, raw sewage spills into the Hudson.
Yeah.
So you know what the guy did? He, without any permission, he got down, lifted the manhole covers, and he put Arduino sensors on every single one of the flood lines, built a mobile app, and said, "Hey, if you're going to go for a shower, just launch the mobile app, and then we'll tell you,
I
don't
think
shower
it was
right now."
It wasn't called Don't Flush. It was about flushing the toilet.
Correct.
If you flush
Yeah.
the toilet in the wrong
But it was
part of-
beyond just flushing the toilet, because that makes it all like comical. But this was about showering. Or they've got the graters in their sinks in the United
Yes.
States. So he integrated all of that, and it was about, if you're going to take a shower now, we're
Right.
above flood line. Do you really want to do it right now?
So I'm loving this movement, and what's really useful is when you start connecting people together instead of trying to come up with an intelligent system to help them. So I'll give you an example like Hunch, where all Hunch does is it asks you questions about yourself. And it starts to kind of learn about you, but then it doesn't try to serve you from a system perspective. It correlates you to other people who answered the questions in the same way you did. It goes, okay, you're in a new city, you're looking for a restaurant. Instead of just showing you restaurants near you, I'll show you restaurants that were picked by people who answered the questions in the same way you did. Chances are they'll...
There you go. For
have
me,
the
that's
same
like
eating
the
habits.
ultimate instantiation of big
And I'm-
data's first.
Yeah, so
personification.
have you been playing with Local Mind? It just came out last week, I think. I might be wrong about
You're
that.
always on the bleeding edge, hey, Simon?
Not quite. But so Local Mind lets you ask experts in an area about that area, So I'm looking for a good print shop where I can get something done in the next 2 hours, or I'm looking for a vegan restaurant with a view of the sea. And then it connects you to minds in that area that will recommend those things for you.
An IBM executive came out the other day and said, big data is not going to be done by a company.
Yeah.
Big data is not going to be done by a suite of products. Big data is going to be a social movement.
Yeah.
It's where people will publish APIs, and it doesn't matter what the data means organically. It is what third parties will utilize that data for and correlate it to.
Yes.
That's what it's all about. You see, for me, the maker movement, that's why I love the maker movement, and I like the whole Arduino movement. It's because all we're doing is injecting intelligence into everything.
Yeah.
We're saying everything can communicate. Now, what that data means to you as Simon right now doesn't mean anything. But the point is everything can communicate.
Yeah.
And then we're putting interfaces on top of it. People
Sure.
will write third-party applications
So-
to make things more useful.
Yeah, I've
with
been
that
doing
data.
a lot of, in the workshops and talks that I do, a lot of talking about the citizen developer, call it,
That's beyond, and that's again Gov 2.0, which is an
Sure.
instantiation of it. I'm talking about deeper complete democratization, where we're running around and we're putting sensors on traffic lights.
Yeah.
So we don't
Citizens
need
developing.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it's true. I mean, if you say citizens, I feel like there's a government somewhere that the context is built around.
Okay.
But it's not about. I think it's about augmenting everything, and it's your biological information. Coming back to quantified.
At what
self.
point do you start regulating things then? Because it's all good and well to say anybody can go and stick a sensor on anything they want, but when you've got 500 people trying to stick a sensor on the same robot, it could become problematic.
But we're not seeing that. And then that's that whole thing. Like,
Yet.
open source will never work because if everyone publishes code at the same time, and who's going to figure this thing out? But it does.
Yeah, no.
You know? So I believe that
but you've
people
got
will
things
figure this
like
stuff
you've
out.
got things like GitHub to help you with code branching and sort of many.
So maybe
developers
we'll have the
feeding into a
GitHub
common-
of physical
Traffic
sensors.
lights?
Of physical sensors. Maybe we'll have that.
Yeah,
You know?
well, what you need to get to is the stage where you can say, okay, this traffic light already has an Arduino device on that I can access. We don't all need
Well,
to.
work backwards, right? We talked about quantified self. That was the subject matter that bred the discussion. I think with
Yeah, how do we
quantified self.
get here?
Well, quantified self to me is the reason you've got your British passport out there, Craig. Are you going somewhere?
We'll come to that.
Oh, okay. Hologram. He's got an Arduino sensor on his British passport.
I've got all sorts
There
of
is there's an RFID code.
There is
There's
an RFID, and there's a new
chip
little
in there.
electronic chip. It just arrived today. Anyway, I'm actually I just
Oh,
'cause
how cool
I had
is
it in my
that?
pocket because I thought I better not leave it in my car.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing that you just get it gets stolen. It's just cost. I mean, that is an expensive piece of paper. That cost like 2,300 rand, but
Jeez.
worth it, right? Anyway, yeah. I mean, it's got this.
Hand
so
it
it's got
over.
RFID in it. So we're just going to completely change tack for a moment while we're
No
talking.
problem.
Is it RFID or is it NFC?
I do need you to speak into your mic.
That is a very good question.
Whoa!
Oh, a little bit too much.
Hear the volume.
All right, we'll
no,
keep it
that's
sultry.
perfect.
Is that all right?
But is it an RFID or is it?
It is RFID.
It's RFID, I believe. Yeah, somewhere in there, and it's a little creepy, right? It's chipped. It's got your biometric info built in.
I don't think it's creepy at all. I think it's awesome, and I wish they could give me one in my arm already, so I wouldn't have this piece of
So you
paper.
wouldn't
I
have
can
to worry
lose.
with that. Yeah.
I wish I could just have an NFC sticker with that on.
The reason, though, that I think it's even vaguely worth mentioning, and maybe it's just because maybe I'm just jaded and not used to good service, but I'm just amazed at how quickly this all happened, right? So what the embassy's done is you can't go anymore and apply in person because they've literally said on their website, this is a waste of manpower.
Yeah.
Is we can't deal with your silly questions. We'll just put up the info out there. You have to courier your stuff to us. We'll courier it back to you, and then we don't have to see you.
So
we
poor
don't have to do
African
any
people can no
face-to-face.
longer go to Britain.
No, you can apply. You just can't apply in person. Applying for visas, I don't know how that works. I'm
We need to
afraid.
get
This
that
is a
mic
different
strapped
story.
to the front of your face somehow.
This is a different story.
there
but,
we go. Put the mic in between you and
I'll put it
Stafford,
right in
because
front
you
of
keep
me. There
looking
we
at
go. Well, it's because he's turning around, and I feel compelled to make eye contact like a polite person.
That's all good.
So my point is that in less than 2 weeks, I've had that couriered off to my old one, couriered off to Pretoria. Then that one, all the forms and the photos and everything sent off to England, and this one couriered back in all of 12 days,
Wow.
which
That's
I think
pretty
is
cool.
pretty efficient.
You know what
It's
I'd like to
pretty
do with
good.
that passport? I'd like to take a blade to it and just I'd
just
like to
cut
cut
it
that
apart.
up and just see how
Well,
they're doing the implementation.
The
In 10
RFID
years'
chips
time, you're
don't look
welcome
very
to.
impressive.
Is that RFID or NFC?
It's RFID.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. I've read the same. Anyway, in 10 years' time, you're welcome to. They give you your old one back. They just clip the corners so that you can see, so that you can't use it. I mean, aside from the fact that it'll say the expiry date, but they'll give it back to me in 10 years. Then you're welcome to cut it up.
It's the way the world's going.
Anyway. So sorry, that is why I have my British passport on the counter.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Back to quantified self.
No,
Back to-
I like the RFID thing because you always get these morons, and they're not wrong, but they're still morons because they'll talk your ear off about the security problems that we are presenting to the world. And they're akin to people who dance around about the fact that we all need to go and run away and hide because an asteroid's going to destroy the Earth one day. You know, and it's entirely plausible that an asteroid would destroy the studio in the next. We shouldn't be doing the show because an asteroid could destroy the studio.
Look,
You
I
shouldn't drive to work every
I
day.
do
Yeah.
think. I mean, there's some cool work being done on like data embedding in protein cells. I like that.
Okay.
Where some of the IBM engineers in Raleigh have the guys that worked on Blue.
Yeah.
They've been working on protein data oriented storage. I mean, it's muscle tissue is the best platform for storage. It's regenerative.
Didn't know that.
You can store tons and tons of information. Your body is the ultimate network node. Not your passport, not your device in your hand, your body. I mean, think about it. It's BTUs. You're feeding it all the time. It's a great cell. If we can just properly execute on it. I mean, we've already got the Raspberry computer, the $25 Linux GNU computer.
Yes, yeah.
Why can't we have a little bit of that in us. And I think it's very, very plausible.
Well,
and I think we'll see it in the next 5 years.
There's been a lot of cool science this week because, for example, we've now got atom-sized transistors
I saw that this morning, yeah.
working. As Stafford
We got
pointed out,
atom-sized transistor strands.
yes, and they have to be kept at what, minus 300 degrees
For now.
Celsius. Or so.
Yeah, well, that'll get better, right? That'll get better. We've also got, I saw someone had 3D model, 3D printed a new jawbone. And I think 3D printing and medicine is going to be one of the most interesting applications of
It's
it.
happening already.
There's a hell of a lot
in the UK,
happening
there's a lot
very
happening.
quickly at the moment.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I was listening to the Mindscapes of Alan Moore, and you have to be careful with Alan Moore because, well, he's crazy. You know, he's a
prerequisite,
magician.
really,
And
yeah.
but you listen to the Mindscape of Alan Moore, and he says some very poignant things. Like he says, between 50,000 BC and 1 AD, we doubled human knowledge, which is plausible. You know, he goes, and between then and the Renaissance, we doubled human knowledge again, and then between the Renaissance and the year 2000, we doubled it again. And there's a strong argument to be made that we doubled it again between 2000 and 2010, and that we may do so again between 2010 and 2015.
Sure.
And what happens when that escalation really starts getting ridiculous? You know.
Yeah. How do you
I
keep up?
love what George Gilder says. If you've ever read, George Gilder did 2 books that I've read, and I think they're beautiful. One's called Microcosm.
Yes.
And it talks about the chipset and that,
Yeah,
and I think
yeah.
it's very relevant to this. The other one's called Telecosm.
Yeah.
You know, one dealt with the chipset and the increase of computing power from a transistor perspective, etc. And I think Intel have just announced something that I think is tectonic. I think it breaks Moore's law because it improves it. We don't have to wait 18 months for the doubling of transistors on a single piece of silicon.
But let's be fair. I mean, Moore's law. You know, occasionally we've come up to it, and other times we've exceeded it, and other times we haven't quite done it. I mean,
But
Yeah.
if you look,
it's a guideline.
but if you look back, we've trended pretty well on Moore's law.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
every 18 months. Look, we can go deep into Moore's law because it wasn't even a law.
But I mean, this is
Moore
gonna
came up with
climb-
this, and
Yeah, it was Carver Mead who coined
But
it.
the point here is, if you take a look at George Gilder, I mean, coming back to Simon's posit there, I think George Gilder said in Microcosm, world with infinite execution power, but in Telecosm it was the world with infinite bandwidth.
Yeah.
And I love what he says. He says the only things we've got as reference to this new world is biblical. He says it's like angels move in an omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent way.
Yeah, but let's
Yeah?
let's stay with objective reality for tonight's show.
Okay.
We are starting to delve into singularity theory, though, which is interesting.
That's true. Like I always said, a nuke will go off because of a hacked capture code one day.
All right, let's bring it back to the here now and talk about all the promises being made this week in terms of broadband in South Africa. Of course, a big promise was made last year where Roy Padiachi, who used to be our Minister of Communications in South Africa, said that we would have 100% broadband penetration by 2020. And he got some CEOs of big telecoms companies to go, yeah, that's an awesome idea. Let's make it happen. Didn't say how it would happen. Said we'd need private-public partnerships, but didn't actually try and create any of them. But that's what's happening. This week, more promises made. Apparently in Gauteng, we are headed for. Do you know the numbers, Craig? Did you write the article on Tech Central? I remember seeing one.
Oh, there's one
this week.
on from the
I had it
We're doing
open.
on
Where is it?
on the Cape Town.
Where has it
on,
gone?
On Zilla.
Well, Helen Zilla as well has been promising 100 megabit per second broadband for citizens of Cape Town by
for
20.
the metropole, yeah, 2020.
Did you say 14? I want to say 14. You know
No, I
what?
think it
Let's
was
call up
2020
these stories.
I think
had
it was
them open.
2020
They're
for
gone.
all citizens. It was 2014 for municipal buildings and for
Metros.
for schools.
Zilla
But the
promises.
actual whole metro was I think 2020.
Well, this
You
is
can
on
correct me
Tech
shortly.
Central, so it can't be wrong.
So I should know.
And it was written by staff reporter. He's a fantastic human being. And it says.
That's not a
never
short for
wrong.
my
Okay.
name. Just by the way.
Helen Ziller wants every citizen in the Cape Town metropolitan area to have access to 100 megabits per second broadband by 2020. So, yes, 8 years from now, that you'll have caught up with Parisians.
With Parisian. Well, this is the other problem, right? I think this is what's so interesting about all of these predictions too about internet, is that whatever we're doing, we're still catching up with someone. And
Yeah.
the idea is, well, yes, that's a nice goal for then, but what's the rest of the world going to be on in 8 years' time? It's the same as
Yes.
these highway additions. It's great to add a lane, but by the time you've spent 3 years adding a lane, you probably needed to add 2.
Very, very, very true. She said, in addition, she wants government buildings and schools to enjoy that sort of connectivity by 2014. So
You know what's
that's
interesting?
where the 2014 date came
The
from.
Gauteng Premier. I just saw a story on
Well,
IT
that's what I
Web
was saying.
that
He's
says-
made promises this week too.
No, she.
Sorry.
Yeah, Nomvulo.
Oh,
She
yes,
said
Mokonyane.
she said Gauteng residents are said to benefit from 95% broadband coverage in the next few years as the province
But
rolls out G-Link.
politicians love pushing out these numbers without telling us how.
I know, this is the problem. They pick a date, and
Yeah,
a date
but-
sounds
but-
very nice, especially when that date
Yeah.
falls outside of your term.
It's like politics 101. Pick a date and pick connection speed.
Yeah, and preferably make it 2 years after you won't be in office anymore.
Yeah, but I think as facetious as we are and all that, I do think that and I think it's an indictment on the IT industry and the leadership in the IT industry.
Yes.
I don't think that we have sustainably, verbosely, with full clarity, approached leadership in our government and articulated the benefits of broadband and general ICT. It's clear that the president kind of has a notion of it. It's clear that the cabinet members will pay lip service to it.
Yeah.
But nobody in our industry, or not a group of us, have gone and said, stop the bus. We need to articulate to you that, just like Helen Zill quoted,
Yeah.
every 10% of broadband penetration equals 1.5% of GDP growth. That's like a World Bank number. I don't think we've done that in South Africa. I think we're so good at articulating what the problem is. I think we've been very bad at coherently and cohesively approaching public sector and saying, hey, folks, here's what we need. Here's the plan. This is why, because let's be honest, we've seen oceanic fiber on the eastern seaboard and the western seaboard. That movie's done. We're going to have more capacity than we'll consume. The problem that we have is terrestrial backhaul. We've got local loop problems in South Africa specifically, and then we've got spectrum allocation.
Yeah.
We need to go back and say, we've got enough capacity in the ocean. Now, please allow us to roll out and make the necessary investment on international backhaul.
Yeah.
Allow us to, drop this local loop or get it out the way, this particular issue, and further do LTE deployments with the necessary spectrum allocation.
Yes.
These are very real problems that stand in our way, and I don't think it keeps being put off. But I don't see us as an industry approaching government. So we're looking back and throwing pellets at the guys, and you know what? They've got bigger issues. They've got houses to build, clean water, schools, healthcare. We've got to make sure that our agenda is clearer.
I don't know so much.
I think let's take responsibility for this. And I
Sure.
don't think we have.
Sure.
I think there's individuals that have. But if we truly
the problem is it's very difficult for the private sector to lead public-private participation. It almost, by virtue of its nature, has to be a push by the public sector, because without political will, the private sector just is fighting a ball of bureaucracy.
But that's my point.
Sure.
My point is that you're talking about the consequences post doing what I'm proposing,
Okay.
which is just simply going and sitting down and saying, whoa, stop the bus.
Yeah.
Do you understand what the problem actually is?
Yeah.
Do you understand the trouble that we're having and the opportunity that it presents if we resolve it? I don't think anyone has articulated that clearly to government.
I tend to be even more cynical about it. I think that unless you can show immediate short-term advantages for individuals in government, this is specific to our government, they just don't give a crap.
But I do think we can articulate enormous political capital associated with this argument.
Sure. So that's the unfortunate thing about politics in our country, is unless somebody's getting rich, famous, or popular from doing something, they're not going to do it.
That's politics anywhere in the
Yeah.
world. It's not just
No,
South
sure,
Africa.
sure,
You know,
but
it's all over. But I do think we haven't done a good enough job, and I think we need to. I think we need to sit down and say, "Hey, folks, stop the bus. We need to do something about this. Else, it's going to it will not go away."
Okay. Well, let's turn to lighter matters. The Sony PS Vita is launching in South Africa tomorrow night.
Yeah. We're
And
gonna
will
go
be
and have a look at
available within the next week, I think.
That's what I've heard bandied about, yeah.
Has anybody played with the Vita?
No. Unfortunately, you're a day too early, Simon.
Are you
Tomorrow,
not, are
I'd
you
be
not
able to
much
say
of
yes.
Are you not much of a gamer?
I'm not a gamer at all, but I'm still going to go. I'm still going to go and fiddle with it tomorrow. So,
Yeah.
no, I mean, I'm still interested in it. I'm curious about this. How long this market for console, sort of portable consoles, will last, considering, smartphones and tablets. I mean, when I see some of the experience you can get out of a 10-inch tablet, especially if you get those little things that your friend Mr. Haggard is so fond of.
Yes.
Those little thumb controllers
Yeah.
that stick on the corners. The experience you can have gaming on those sort of devices makes me wonder about how long
Yeah.
these proprietary consoles are going to last.
Well, we've been saying that for a while. One of the problems is the price of games for them. So no, I don't think anybody really argues that the experience of gaming is not better on the sort of the PlayStation Vita or the 3DS.
Nintendo 3DS, yeah.
I mean, they just are better gaming platforms, hands down. But when you're comparing games that cost 99 cents or $3 or $5 or $10 to games that cost 500, 600 Rand, for a handheld platform. And the gap between the quality of games on a sort of an Android device or an iPad and portables from Sony and Nintendo is also closing steadily.
Sure, because don't you think potentially, eventually, what you're going to end up with is games that are just cross-platform?
Yeah.
And, because the game is sold on so many platforms, they'll be able to make up in volumes what they used to do in price.
Yes, exactly.
And you'll be able to sell a game, what would be a $50 game, for $15 because you can move it across so many different platforms.
But we're seeing a beautiful thing happening on smartphones and tablets, and that's the rise of serious indie game developer.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so you look at Machinarium, for example.
Love that game.
One of the best games ever.
As a non-gamer.
Developed by two dudes in Eastern Europe. Just like smacks it out of the park on Steam and on desktop and laptop computers. It's now available for Android and iOS. And they're making tons of just this beautiful little game from an indie design studio that 5 years ago probably wouldn't have had a snowball's chance. Now making the kind of money that mainstream games make.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful.
And it's good because, as I said, I've got it on my iPad, and that's generally a measure. I'm the worst kind of gamer. I'm what some people previously sexist sorts would call a girl gamer. I like platformers. I don't like shoot 'em ups. I don't like first-person shooters. I don't like these enormous sort of strategy World of Warcraft games. Not interested. I want a platform and a cute little thing that collects stuff.
Well, that's the other thing we're seeing is rise of the casual gamer. People who are playing Angry Birds. I mean, my mom plays Angry Birds. I'm not lying when I say it's the first video game she has ever played in her whole life, and she loves it.
Sure.
Right? Like gaming, the Wii tried to democratize gaming, but it's taken smartphones and tablets to truly do it.
And Rovio,
yeah.
So I've listened to you guys, and I think it's interesting because I'm not a gamer myself, but there's a company that I think is going to be personifying, I think, the next instantiation of gaming.
Is it
and
Zynga?
that is it's OnLive.
Oh yes, with the cloud gaming.
Yeah, cloud gaming. I think that's where it's going to go. I think you're going to pay like what Spotify did to iTunes.
Yes.
OnLive will do for gaming. You can
That's
go to
a good analogy, actually. I like that.
You go to onlive.com and go take a look at them. What they're saying is gaming as a service. You pay X amount per month, and
the game streams effectively.
And you get a little joystick in the mail with a little decoder.
Yeah.
You plug it in, and it will plug into your smart TV, your tablet, whatever, and you can play. And you can play socially. You don't own a gaming console, and you don't own any cartridges.
What really bothers me, though, is that we are nowhere near the kind of bandwidth you need for this stuff in South Africa.
Well, this comes back to this problem again. We've got so much coming offshore, but to try and get it sort of connection speeds.
But I do think
gaming is certainly the future.
It's going to happen. In fact, I think the genie is out the bottle, and it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's again, we'll keep falling behind down here.
And Google TV is a big part of that. They've just signed with OnLive, and at the moment it's just a browser. You can just watch games happening. But very soon Google TV will include console-level gaming.
Watch TV, man. I think in the next 24 to 36 months, TV is going to change.
So what does Sony? What does Sony and Microsoft do? They own the console space, all them and Nintendo. Companies like OnLive they have to play in that space while still trying to protect their console.
I think they're an acquisition target, in my opinion.
Sony?
No,
Microsoft?
OnLive.
Oh, OnLive.
OnLive. I think they're an acquisition target, and I'll tell you why. I think you're gonna come from different angles. I think you're gonna come from the peripheral smartphone angle, or you're gonna come from having a large footprint in the console world angle.
Yes.
And I don't see any of the TV manufacturers waking up to this. And I do think like an Apple. If an Apple did it properly and they did an integrated iOS experience where you have the phone, the tablet, and the TV all seamlessly integrated with that same kind of iPod. You know what they did with the iPod? You throw your phone underneath the TV and there it displays the movie that you're watching. Stuff like that. I do
think Sony's onto something with the Vita, though. Firstly, I just love the way they've integrated touch controls. It looks like they've very thoughtfully done this. So, beautiful touchscreen. And then also trying to bring that element, and Nintendo have tried to do this too, of affordable smartphone games in a game market to these platforms, which is exactly what they need to be doing at this moment in time. The Vita just looks like an awesome little gaming platform. I haven't played with one. I can't wait to try it out and really get sort of grips with it. But it looks fantastic. It really takes the fight to the 3DS. The other thing they're doing right is that they've got specials on games that you'll get for dual platform. So they've got a list of games that if you buy for the PS3 or for the Vita, you get it for both platforms. You can play it on both. You don't have to buy separate copies of the game, which is awesome. So looking forward to seeing more. Unfortunately, I won't be at the launch tomorrow night, but Craig, you will be. So check it out on my behalf.
I'll tell you about it in the future. Yeah,
looks good.
You know what, this whole notion I think touches on something where, Kevin Kelly said it. He says we're going to move from a world from ownership to access.
Yeah.
Where people won't want to own things anymore. And if you look at it, I mean, what iTunes did, iTunes said we'll give you flexibility where you own the tracks that you want.
Yes.
Priced fairly.
Yes.
Killed piracy in the music space.
Unless of course, the
arguably.
person in question has just died, in which case they might be not priced quite so fairly. But,
Okay, so again, Sony.
but I'm with
Sony.
you. Yeah, again, Sony.
But I think this whole, iTunes did it, and then Spotify came along and said you can have as much music, as much as you can listen,
Yeah.
all you can eat, monthly subscription, ubiquitously available across any device.
Unfortunately, we're still dealing with a layer of middlemen who keep this stuff away from markets like South Africa and.
Yeah, but we've
the
always
case
had
with
this
some
problem. Like,
instances.
people don't care
Yeah.
about South Africa. They'll always release it. The population
It's not
penetration.
that they don't care about South Africa. Well, look, a lot of them don't understand the market. I wrote a column recently saying, look, the first country Spotify launched in was Sweden, because Sweden is, their home country. That's where they started. But Sweden has a population of 10 million people. A very elaborate research paper was done by an American university, I can't remember which one, in collaboration with StatsSA in 2008. Oh, no, sorry, it concluded in 2006. And they, at the time, said that 26% of South Africans can be considered as middle class. That means that in 2006, the middle class in South Africa was about twice the size of the entire population of Sweden. Now, even if you're sort of, let's say cynical about what qualifies as middle class in South Africa, let's call it
Even if you
3
cut
to
that
5 million
in-
people.
yes, even if you cut that in half.
Yeah, 3 to 5 million people in the target market for Spotify. That already makes it a bigger target market than many middle sort of Central European countries. And yet they put more effort into launching in those countries than in South Africa. But the problem for Spotify is not that they don't want to sell music here. It's that they have to go and broker BS license agreements with record labels for each region separately. They can't go to Sony and
So I
go
was
give us a
actually-
license
okay,
for global.
that was what I was going to say. Because I think the problem is not Spotify. The problem is not Netflix.
Yeah.
The problem is not that. You know what the problem we have here? It's Naspers. Naspers owns all the content to everything, and it's scary the rights that they have.
Yes.
But it's not even a Naspers problem. I think
No.
Naspers' rights is ominous.
Yeah.
And a company that big,
Yes.
I think, could put you into court for the next 5 years as a startup, and it will kill you. Okay.
So-
but I do think the record label companies, the movie producing companies,
Yeah.
have not ratified, and that's why Sopa and Pippa. So Sopa and Pippa came along, and it was they tried to address a problem when the foundation is rotten. The geographical rights with content is sick. I mean, look at the app stores.
Yes.
Look at the South African app store. Look at every app, the Amazon bookstore. The publishers won't allow an ebook to come down to South Africa. It's
Yeah.
a mess. So
So-
not only regional, but
Yeah.
they've got these incestuous agreements. So someone has to open that up.
Sure. But think about this, right? So let's use the example of a popular show like The Walking Dead, right? Which is owned by CBS.
How cool is that show?
It's awesome.
Yeah?
But so
Have you
CBS,
seen the latest one that just came out, Nebraska?
episode 8, yes, awesome.
Don't watch TV.
Phenomenal awesome.
That's not TV. It's
But back to what we were talking about. So CBS owns the rights for The Walking Dead. They own the production schedule. They own everything. The airtime windows. They decide who gets to watch The Walking Dead, right? So what you need is a reality, and it already exists, arguably, in which the producers of The Walking Dead don't need CBS, and they can shoot episodes of the program, which is expensive to do. It's like, I don't know, let's say $1 million an episode.
Sure.
much more than that. But
But if they were able to go directly to iTunes, and there's no reason why they can't do this, or directly to Hulu or Netflix.
Like an indie game site.
Yeah, they need startup capital. Okay, they need $1 million to make the first episode and sell it. Let's say $5 an episode. But if it's globally available, I guarantee you there are at least 1 million people out of a population of 7 billion in the world who would pay to watch The Walking Dead. Even if there's only 500,000, they are still making like $2 million profit on every single episode they shoot.
Tim O'Reilly said the problem with online content is not piracy, it is discoverability.
Sure. But it's also
they're not allowing us
CBS going,
access to-
hold on, we don't want these guys to make more profit than we do off of The Walking Dead and sell it all over the world at the same time.
But Simon, look at Netflix, right? Look where Netflix was when it was strong. What was Netflix doing? Remember they did that deal with Kevin Spacey's production company?
Yes.
So they went from, okay, we can get movies a month. They went all the. Remember the window was first. We can get what's in the DVD store on Netflix.
Yeah.
Then they pushed that window because remember when a movie gets released, how does it get released? In the United States, then Europe, then it's in the cinema, then it goes dead for 6 to 8 weeks, and then it pops up in your video store. Then it's there for like 2 years, and you rush home at 8 o'clock on Sunday on Mnet, and 18 years later it's on ETV. Now.
Literally.
But those windows of release was in a world where the television was this dumb thing in your home, and that was the only electronic thing in your home, really, besides the appliances. Now when we have all this connectivity happening, I think it's going to change. But Netflix bumped into that wall deeply and hardly. They said, okay, we're going to shorten those windows of content availability all the way. They came very close to, when something was released on the cinema, they had it. But they didn't, only with certain of the content platform owners, like Time Warner, like Sony, etc. But remember they said they were going to organically start creating content themselves. There was a rumor that they were going to buy HBO.
I remember that.
You remember that? They said they were going to buy HBO. Then there was an instantiation where they did that deal with Kevin Spacey, where they were going to release a TV series like Walking Dead, sponsored by Netflix. Why? Simply to have the content instantaneously, to deliver on what you just describing, which is having it globally available, globally on Netflix. And that's the problem. It's geographical license rights.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a mess, man. So I think it's not about the bands. It's not about, the Spotifys. It's about the underlying rights problem. And I think, Stop Online Privacy Act, the protection of information.
But, at the end of the day, you are talking about a lot of people who work at the CBSs of the world who are out of a job in this new paradigm,
Sure.
It's the Murdochs of the world.
It's always going to.
It's always nature of the beast, though.
Sure. So that this kind of disruption. There's that famous saying, I can't remember by who. Don't cry for the newspapers. It's don't cry for the dinosaurs. Same thing. Like their time came, they didn't survive.
But
like the new era doesn't work for them.
I mean, I'm sorry, but tough. It's the same with
like nobody needs Volkswagens anymore.
Guys used to do typesetting, actual hand typesetting, and then in the last 30 years have been put out of a job. Well, the bonus is we can print books faster, more people can read them, they're cheaper. I mean, unfortunately, when the benefits outweigh the downsides, then industries die, and they get relegated to history books. But
I don't think it's that simple, and I'll tell you why I don't think it's that simple. I think the printing press business is a very complicated commercial engine. And let's not underestimate that commercial engine. The way, when I was at Google, what I underestimated was how deeply entrenched the traditional advertising companies were inside of businesses.
Yes.
And we had a great story, right? Come online and great tracking capability, bring all your spend. But what we discovered was super rebates. There were models, spreadsheets that had algorithms in them that didn't make sense to us, the common man.
But
and
isn't
that's what
that
those
part of all the guff on the floor that gets swept out when the new model
Not when
happens?
everyone's interests are being covered. Rupert Murdoch, come on, he's got to have his chauffeur.
That's true, and you deeply admit. I also don't think, newspapers aren't going to die overnight, right? There's still a lot of appeal. People still want things to read on the train when they can't get Wi-Fi. There are various other stages that we need to reach before these sorts of things are going to completely vanish. I get mocked for my sizable book collection, and I was recently unpacking CDs, and my otherwise charming flatmate said, "You're really not just going to give those boxes to the charity shop. You're really going to unpack that onto a shelf. And are you ever going to use them?" Well, I don't know. Yes, well, all right. He thinks all of those sort of things are redundant.
Yeah.
And do you really need the books? Can't you just get it on the Kindle?
Right.
But I'm still kind of attached to them, and I think a lot of people are.
You know what? That's just a funny story. So I've got this, my 11-year-old Bethany. She's a complete bookaholic. She's incredibly. She'll read. She just does. That's nonstop. It's a problem because she won't go to bed.
It's a problem. My kid's reading too many books.
Oh my God!
No. I wish Amber, my youngest one, would read one. But Bethany the other day, she's taken over my Kindle completely. completely taken over the Kindle. She reads everything on
Terrible
Kindle.
stuff with all this reading.
And then you know what she did? She went on a
generation.
school camp, and they said no electronic devices. So I told her, no, you can't take your Kindle. It's not an electronic device. It's a book, just in electronic
Just bend
format.
the rules, yeah.
No, so the school didn't understand because none of the teachers use Kindle, so they don't get it. So I had to go buy her the physical book. It was I'm going to get to it now. Percy Jackson.
Oh, and
The person-
the something.
Yeah, there's like a million of these books. She's
something
read
or
6
other,
of them
yeah.
or 5 of them. This is the 6th one. So I had to go buy her the physical book. She has not read physical books this year. She's always been on the Kindle.
Yeah.
And then I gave her a physical book again. And the first thing she did, she opened it up and she smelt it.
Yeah.
And she said, Dad, I miss the smell.
Yeah.
And she said, I really, really miss. But she says, you know what's.
melt?
But but the thing is, she said, you know what's really cool about the Kindle? When I lay in bed, I don't have the problem that a book has. A book has 2 pages that I have to look at
Yes.
and turn.
Yeah,
A Kindle only has one.
Well, geez, did I get flack with my first article on the Kindle? The first time I reviewed a Kindle, I think it was in Finweek. I said to me, it's more comfortable than reading a paper book. Sure.
Oh,
Sacrilege, the outcry.
This is, I think, the point we come back to is there's certain people who will defend these sort of things really strongly because they feel such a strong attachment. Just a quick sidetrack. You
Yes.
know what? I think maybe I should check the net. I'm sure someone's built it. I want a plastic bag that will still allow a capacitive touchscreen to work, so I can read my iPad in the bath.
Yes.
I mean,
That
I'm
would
sure
be
somebody's
handy.
done it.
I'm
Right?
I'm
It
sure
can't be that
exists.
difficult.
So Ziploc not going to happen.
Just get an interactive
Well, no, the
mirror
problem
in
with the
your
Ziploc
shower.
is I can't turn the page.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, so this is the issue. It's got to be something that still allows for a capacitive touch.
Just by the way, I went in December.
I'm going to look now. I'm going to see if
But you
someone
can't
has made
touch through a
one.
Ziploc now, of course.
No, but you know what? I went in December. I met
Insulated.
Jenny
Yeah.
Bukos. Jenny Bukos is the head of Project Explorer. It's a bit better than Khan Academy.
Okay.
Just check it out, Project
Better
Explorer.
than Khan Academy. That's
Yeah.
quite a...
No, she's no.
All right.
It is. I mean, and she's very adamant about that. She thinks Khan is just getting all the money, and she's not. ProjectExplorer.org. But she introduced me to her husband. Her husband is the head of New York Times Labs. So in December, I went into New York Times Labs, and I saw the mirror, the interactive mirror, where you walk up and you say, "Hello, mirror," and it says, "Good morning." And your name. His name's Matt. Says, "Good morning, Matt."
Mine would be better
And-
trained. It would say, "Good morning, you're looking great."
Yes. Mirror on the wall.
So getting back to the point. So
the
it
fairest tech journalist of them all.
detects when you've got your toothbrush in your hand. And when you start brushing your teeth, it will display
You missed a spot.
It'll display 3 minutes worth of New York Times news. On the
Oh,
mirror.
okay, cool.
It's really, really cool. You can go to NewYorkTimesLabs.com. NYTlabs.com.
So I saw the Samsung mirror at CES this year.
But it's sick.
It's awesome.
That is the blinds that you can.
Transparent LCD and so you can have widgets on your window, which is awesome. I wanted
For those listening in,
it's
it's on
cool
the,
living in the future, man.
Just go to YouTube and go Samsung Smart Window.
Yeah.
And the video is amazing.
Of course, at the moment the window's very expensive and not very big. But I was thinking you could embed it in the middle of
Your shower.
of another window maybe, or
I want in my shower.
you need cables to anyway, whatever. It's rad. I want one. Now,
Yeah, but-
the future. Do you see we're going to have hoverboards by 2015? Do you see that story this week?
They say.
Yeah.
Hoverboards, man.
Do you remember
by
those predictions? Do you remember
2015.
that
Where did
show
Marty
called
McFly
Beyond
say we'd have
2000?
one?
Do you remember Beyond 2000?
Yes, it
and
was
we
an
said,
Australian show.
You will have a robot butler by
Yes.
2005.
Yes.
I'm still waiting.
What, you didn't get one?
Yeah, mine never arrived. I blame the postal service.
Do we really want these things?
I should have ordered from Amazon. Their returns policy is
I
great.
like human butlers. They make a funny sound when you kick them.
I mean, if there's anything that I want an Apple-looking exoskeleton. That's what I want.
A what? An
An
exoskeleton
apple-looking, yeah. There's some
designed
cool-
by
there's some-
Apple or the shape of an apple?
Yeah.
No,
that's
I
what I'm
want
wondering.
all the
You're not really
complicated
apple-shaped.
exoskeleton stuff to be hidden like kind of like an iPod.
Okay.
Where you put it on and you can run faster. You can
I
carry
have
weights, pick up your car.
far simpler desires. I just want a hoverboard.
I just want a packet I can put my iPad in.
I want an exoskeleton in my boot, so when I change a tire, I can lift up my car with one hand.
I feel I would be at that stage.
feel that's a problem
I would
for
call
bar fights,
myself
though.
complete.
Yeah. No, I think the problem
Packet
is,
for the iPad and a hoverboard.
Chicks dig it.
I'm good,
the problem is
I'm
if you
good.
could lift your car up. I don't think this is going to work because if you can pick your car up with one hand, imagine the bar brawls. Although, while we're on that, I would really, really like to see sports. I'd like two leagues for every sport, and I'd like a steroids league. I would really like to see 2 rugby players rip each other's heads off. I would pay extra for that.
This
I
is
mean,
getting fantastic.
I just think
Give this
that
man more wine.
we should have a separate bunch who are allowed to take performance-enhancing drugs. You just have a clean league and a dirty league, and probably a very dirty league. It'd make for entertainment, and after all, that's what sport is, right?
I would like to watch golf where
I just want to be a
muscle relaxants are half of the course, literally. and you have these comatose golfers walking around without a jitter in their body and a heart rate of like what?
Unfortunately, golf's pretty boring to watch already. I'm not sure that's
No,
going to
it's
help.
not. No, it's not.
On television.
No, it's not.
All right. Well, I mean, it can't be because they still air it, so there have to be some people.
And their
that
heart
like
rate's
watching
still
it.
above 47. Who wants to watch
So
it?
anyway, I want to talk about Kickstarter before we just like Kickstarter. Let's just talk about Kickstarter a little
Okay.
bit.
Okay.
I mean, I just love what Kickstarter is all about. I love
What made
the
you think of
company.
Kickstarter? You're like,
His
how are we
biggest-
going
no,
to
no, no,
fund this
no,
new
no,
golf
no.
league?
Exactly. I mean, if we're going to build any of these things, let's go to Kickstarter and put it up there.
Okay.
And
I'll
we get-
start a steroid rugby team on Kickstarter. Yeah.
No, but I just Kickstarter. Don't you guys love the ethos of Kickstarter?
I do. And so anybody
it's
who's
just-
listening, if you don't know what Kickstarter is, go to kickstarter.com. And basically, if you've got an idea for something, you can make a short video about it, upload it to Kickstarter, tell it how much money you're hoping to raise to build your idea. And then anybody can come and donate money. They can donate $1, $5, $500, $5,000, whatever. And it's not venture capital. It's not something that you need to pay back to them with interest over time. It's just people being able to donate to ideas that they like.
But there are often tie-ins as well, right? So people make a product, and if you donate
Yes.
$500, you get this very special package.
Yeah,
And if
exactly.
you donate $200,
So
you get a less
there are ways
special.
you can structure it, but basically it's crowdfunding in a way
No,
that
it's
works.
not packages. I've now supported quite a few projects on Kickstarter myself, and what you get is, you know, if you go say if you need $1 million, if you're putting in $500, you get a T-shirt and a mug.
Yeah.
If you get,
Sure.
but they're doing it really cool. It's not about shares or product. What you get is like a T-shirt and a mug. The next level up, you get a T-shirt and a mug, and you get a special package sent to you. The next level up is you get to meet the entire team
I was
at
gonna
a
say, like,
lunch
you get a phone
in
call from the
California
founder or something.
A phone,
Yeah.
yeah,
But
exactly.
the point is that the entrepreneurs themselves can define those packages and what they will give you in return.
And
or
and
if
the point
anything.
is that you
cool,
can
man.
raise money for the most diverse range of projects and products and packages. And you know, I've seen the other thing. I've been reading a lot. There's a great newsletter from a music industry guy, because I used to be a music journalist before I came to the dark side of tech. And there's a guy named Bob Lefsitz who does this amazing newsletter, and he was talking. You know, quite often he points out bands that are raising money to do their albums on Kickstarter now that the traditional sort of label model is dying. It's just so incredible, all of the different things, you know, you can do on it. I also know I've seen a lot of authors or would-be authors who post a synopsis for their planned novel, and
You know what's the biggest category?
are getting funded that way.
You know what
it's
the biggest
amazing.
category is?
I don't. Film, really?
Guys going up saying, I'll make this film independently made. It's going to be all about this, da da da. And people are saying, okay, cool, go. Do it. Because they want to see the movie.
Sure. Yeah.
It's incredible.
I mean, it's a great
you know, and
project.
again, the prize is you get a T-shirt. Second prize is you get tickets. Third prize is you go behind the scenes and et cetera, et cetera. But it's just, I think it's just a beautiful, beautiful kind of next generation community, tribal crowdfunding model.
Tribal?
Yeah. I mean,
Why not? Tribal too.
But you know what's amazing is you get people now getting funding where they shoot over $1 million.
Yes.
They go up for like $25,000. I
And
mean,
they-
look at Twine.
Yeah,
Did you
Twine
see
wanted
Twine?
$35,000, I think, and they've
they're
sitting
a
on
million.
700,000.
No, they're on $1 million now.
Really?
Well, there's
million.
even smaller grade ones.
Two weeks ago, they were on 500 and something
There's a local
thousand.
photographer who's doing a selection of bicycle portraits. And he was looking for $15,000, and I'm just looking here. He's got 16,074 and counting.
Nice.
Yeah, you know, it's just amazing. The range of products is just phenomenal. You know, the range of sort of projects that people can support. And yeah, I agree. I think it's one of those sort of feel goody
We should have
corners of the internet.
we
as
should
well.
have
have it.
one
We
in
should
South
build
Africa.
it.
I was gonna
He
say,
says, looking at Stafford, who's had many such
do
discussions
we need to
with.
build it? Because this is the bonus of it, right? You don't have to be from anywhere specific to use it.
No, you do.
There you
Kickstarter
go.
at the moment, you have to be from the US of A.
Yeah, and you find you have to be on. I'll use. You know what's really cool about
Just like
Amazon
iTunes
was-
Store, I'm sure there's a way around that.
No, but I mean the Kickstarter one where if you fund,
Yes.
the integration of the funding blew me away. It was so beautiful. I clicked on fund. They said log in with your Amazon account. I logged in. Done.
That's cool.
Finished. Amazon sent me a mail saying thank you for supporting Kickstarter.
And I suppose you can do
Done.
Google Wallet or PayPal. Or
No,
anything.
they do Amazon only.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just go take a look. And when you fund, you'll get it's Amazon.
Okay.
I think it's Amazon.
Makes me think of something on that sort of topic. How do we feel about having to sign into new services using Facebook or Twitter?
I
mean,
love it.
There have to be people who exist who don't use either of those.
No, sure. And but I'm yet to see a service that requires that you must have a Facebook or
Spotify.
Twitter account.
Well, and
Spotify.
I was going to say and Rockmelt, but I mean
Spotify,
that's a browser
Pandora.
built around
Yeah.
Facebook. so I
Pandora,
suppose it makes
Spotify.
sense.
But I like the idea. So
Spotify,
Skype.
you used to be able
Skype.
to sign in.
No, Skype you
No,
can't sign in
Skype,
without. But no, Spotify, you can't.
But you know
do
what I
it
mean?
without.
There are some,
I don't know if that's true.
No,
You
you
sure?
can't.
No, now you
I
can't.
signed up for Spotify without it.
No, you're talking
I mean,
before the.
if you could use that in this country,
before
which you can't.
the Facebook deal. You could, but now you have to have a Facebook account.
Really?
Really?
Yeah. Go
Interesting.
to Spotify.
I signed up
and you
for
can-
it.
Anyway,
Well, I can't.
my
I've
point
already
is
got an
that
account.
I like having I'm not suggesting that Facebook is to be trusted, but conceptually a trusted sort of identity vault, and that you authenticate against other systems.
Dude,
using
if
that.
you're a
Just
startup-
Like I think it
if
works
you're a
really well to
startup-
discuss.
Oh,
Or for like comment
off you go.
systems, I think it's great. You know, comment systems, I think it's great because the moment people aren't anonymous, they tend to be nicer. But I'm not sure about a service where, for example, the kind of service that you're not sure you trust. You're concerned that they might spam you or that they might misuse your information.
These
It's
guys might be dirty spam.
the kind of thing you want to sign up for with that email address you keep for things you aren't so sure about.
Right.
And the problem is we're going to get to a point, conceivably, where you can't have a fake Twitter or Facebook profile.
Yes.
You know, essentially, because especially Facebook, there are just too many links. It's just too easy to verify whether you are who you say you are. You've got to, to build a convincing fake Facebook profile takes an inordinate amount of effort increasingly, especially
Yes.
with the sort of facial recognition. And, it's so easy to vet from there, just from an algorithmic point of view.
Yes.
To go, well, no, you can't be that person because if you were that person, you'd know this person and this person and this person. What happens when you get to the point where you can't have a spam email address or you can't have a spam Facebook address? I just think it's interesting that, the more and more services are piggybacking on this because it lends them authenticity as well.
Yes.
Well, that's
But,
that's the point. If you're a startup, they're becoming what PayPal is for transactions.
They're
Facebook's
becoming for identity.
and on authentication.
Yeah, sure.
And that's a scary thing because I don't think that Google or Facebook does identity right online. Because I am not what I am in my Facebook account only.
Sure,
if I
sure.
look in the mirror, they say who you see in the mirror, that's who you are. It's not who I am. That's one-dimensional.
But it doesn't matter because all
it
you're
does
doing
matter.
is
Remember when-
authenticating with the system.
Remember
Sure,
Google
you're just
said you
proving that
couldn't
you are
have.
who you say you
Remember
are.
Google's with Google Plus?
Yeah, they
came out
couldn't
and
have
said
pseudonyms
you
or
must have
your real name,
Real
yeah.
name.
Yeah.
Why?
No, sure. But when it comes to authenticating against a system, that's really irrelevant. All you're doing is going, hey, it's me, and Facebook sending back some information, and off you go. Now you can use a service.
There's this beautiful Web 2.0 talk by a guy whose name I forget now, and I'll get the link, where he said, Twitter gets it sort of right, sort of, because you can have a handle. That's the one that you choose when it's linked to your true identity. He says Facebook and Google has it completely wrong. And I'll get that link just now.
Okay. So, good news if you've been waiting for the Galaxy Nexus to change tech completely is that we now have launch dates and pricing for South Africa. It will
thought I saw one
happen
here. Oh,
this
there it is.
week, 20 to 25 February. Yes, that's Galaxy Nexus, isn't it?
Yeah,
Stafford?
next to Stafford. Yeah.
I've got one in my bag as well.
Yeah, this
Love that
picture.
phone.
Is it? Is
We
it the
had
one
one.
that
We
got
dropped
from
ours.
the thing?
Yes, that's
Okay, I
running
must-
ice cream sandwich.
Yeah, I must be honest. This phone is
you love it?
incredible, dude.
Really,
You know what I like?
I thought to it about is I must be honest, this is the biggest load of crap I've
I don't know. I thought he was going that way too. No, but actually I didn't because I've seen you enthusing about it before. We had one. Tech Central got one to review.
Yes, and Duncan broke it.
And Duncan dropped it on
he
day
broke his
4.
screen.
But, he dropped it for those on the video, for about, this high, about sort of 20, 30 centimeters
Let's
off
try
the
to do that with
counter.
mine.
And he dropped it on the corner, and there's a hairline crack, and that's it. Like, you turn it on, you can
Ooh,
still hear
yeah.
notifications, but that screen is dead.
So I love
I think it's
face
just bad luck,
notifications. It works for me.
It's just the wrong spot.
Anyway,
Face
so-
notifications.
Yes. Oh, sorry, face identification.
No, can I tell you what the
I mean,
coolest thing
long
about
Monday.
this
Until you've
phone
been
is?
in a bar brawl or something, but then there's always a pin override, isn't there?
Yeah, but I use
What's
the
the coolest
pin when
feature
I've
on
been
this phone?
smashed up.
The coolest thing about
more
having
showing
this
off.
phone.
I don't know, Stafford.
You know what? When Brian Hurley, and I'm going to call him out on this, I sat next to the CCOM CEO.
Yes.
Said to me the other day, well, this phone, no, it's not Apple, it's boring. He lifted up my phone. When you hold an iPhone next to this, an iPhone's a piece of lead compared to this phone.
Yeah, it is
This
light.
is bigger. And you know what he did?
The screen
Oh,
He
is
showed me.
amazing.
He showed me a picture of his daughter on his screen on his iPhone,
Yes.
and then I said, "Mail it to me." And I showed him the screen, his daughter's pic on my phone, and he went, "Oh,
Yeah, the screen
my
is
goodness."
amazing. The screen is too big for me, though. But it's just an incredible device. Anyway, if you've been waiting for the Galaxy Nexus from Samsung, this is the
Sorry,
new
I
official
lied.
Google phone running Android 4, which is Ice Cream Sandwich. It's going to be available this week, 20 to 25 February. Hold on. Yes, this week.
Oh, so are they launching it? What is it going to be called? The Samsung Galaxy S.
It's Galaxy Nexus.
Can I tell you what
Galaxy
my
Nexus.
favorite thing about the Nexus was? while we're talking about them and
Yeah.
enthusing. I love
If
the
you say NFC, I'm going to headbutt you.
NFC. What on earth? What am I going to use that for? No, don't be ridiculous. Not NFC. My favorite thing about it was the vanilla Android, the ice cream sandwich.
Yes.
It's just stripped down.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
I think my
No
biggest
touchless.
moan about Android generally is that people insist on putting these custom overlays on. Whether it's I quite like HTC's, the what's it called, Sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Samsung's TouchWiz and Motorola's
Plus, TouchWiz. Seriously, you're going to name it TouchWiz?
I know. I mean,
Anyway.
Jesus, but sorry. So this is my point. I really like the bare bones Android. I think it's the best implementation of Android I've seen in a long time.
Yes,
It just
vanilla Android is beautiful.
gets rid of all of the fluff and all of the rubbish and all of the bloat that these companies put on to try and differentiate from the other companies, and it just works.
Isn't it funny how Android on mobile devices is kind of, in a lot of way, mimicking what Windows became on computers, with all the fragmentation, with all of the
Sure.
guff that gets loaded by vendors because they're incentivized to do it, with all of the... It's just, I mean, I've been testing a lot of Android tablets, so tablets from Toshiba and Motorola and you name it. And it's starting to happen there. You switch on an Android tablet and there's all this rubbish from McAfee and Symantec and that's been installed in this. And I'm going, guys, this is like slipping back into the 90s for me when Windows used to come loaded with all of this crap I don't need. I don't know. Or maybe I've just been using Macs for too long. And
But
No, that's
Simon,
exactly how
have
I
you
feel
been
about
using this
Android.
as your phone?
I'm always testing phones. So recently I've been using this in the Lumia 800 from
Okay,
Nokia.
so let's be honest. Android on this,
It's beautiful.
it's beautiful, it's all that, but when you use it predominantly as your phone, there's a lot of problems with it.
Yeah, it's a bit buggy, and they still need to get their heads around. I guess, for lack of a better term, just an intuitive interface. It's still a bit sticky. It's still not obvious.
It just opens up like a million screens in
Yeah.
the background and you don't know that they're there. Number one. Number two is the keyboard gets stuck. Like when you use it for big mails.
I've
and you start-
installed. What's the keyboard I use? I've
Yeah,
installed
please.
another keyboard.
If you can tell
maybe
me.
I'll make that my pick of the week once I find it. Swift Key X, fantastic Android
Okay, you
keyboard.
need
I've
to
replaced it
share
with
the
that.
link to get that, or how do you
We'll
get
just
that?
look for Swift Key X
And
in the Android market.
it'll come up in your picks. Otherwise,
Yeah.
there'll be a link to it.
So anyway, just to get back to the pricing, Vodacom has released its pricing, and they said it'll have a recommended selling price of 7,000 Rand, and they'll offer a contract that includes 100 megabytes of data at 279 Rand per month. So you'll obviously want more data because on an Android phone, you're going to go through 100 megabytes in half an hour. Android is the
despite what
worst
some
data farm.
operators think. Yeah.
Yeah. But so $280 a month. If you're looking at an Android phone at the moment, this is my number
can't
one
go wrong with
choice.
this.
This is,
Yep.
But it's beautiful.
I think we all agree on that.
yeah.
Such a
Which is
beautiful-
unusual and kind of fun
Plus,
in this
it's got the
studio.
Google blessing of the Google logo on the back. So.
And all you need to do is put your phone next to all the iPhone guys. Just throw your phone on the table when all their phones are on the table. It's just so nice.
You know what the thing is, and I was chatting to Christo 227 about this. The problem is that you invest so much money in applications. So let's say the iPhone has been your predominant mobile platform. You've gone out and you've found these productivity apps that you started relying on, and your favorite Twitter client that you paid maybe $5 for. You started Instagramming. Maybe you bought Snapseed, and you really get tied into the platform based on the apps you bought. Now maybe you pick up the Galaxy Nexus and go, "Whoa, I think this is a better phone." Now I have to start finding these apps.
First, you got to find the equivalents.
Yes.
Then you got to pay for them.
Yes,
I agree. I mean, this is one of the problems.
and so you're not, and then you end up tied into a platform not because it's necessarily better and you think it's better, but because you're invested in the applications. And once again, just mimicking the personal computer market, right? How many people would love to switch to Linux or love to switch to Mac, but they're just so embedded in their Windows application ecosystem that it can't happen?
It's one of the perks of not being a gamer. Is moving between
Yes.
Windows to Mac was effortless
So-
because I don't need anything that plays games.
So
and that seems
Steam
to be a
is,
big lock-in
Steam
for
is
some
healing
people.
that because increasingly more and more games will have a Mac equivalent. And so if you've bought Team Fortress on PC, you can install Steam on a Mac and use your account to download the
Sure.
Mac client.
But that used to be one of the great PC advantages was,
Yes.
gaming. And if you were a gamer, Mac was
But that's why
a nuisance.
I'll always, when choosing apps or services, I'll always go for the most agnostic. So I
Sure.
use Google Apps for Enterprise, not because I hate iCloud, not because I hate Office 365 or whatever the hell Microsoft sells, but just because I don't want to be tied into their platforms. And I
Exactly
know
the same.
that my Google account will be available in just about anything.
Exactly, and it plays nicely with everything, which is one of the problems I'm having with or a friend of mine was having with Mac, actually, and things like iCal.
Yes.
Is trying to get them to play with a Windows 7 phone. And it was enough to actually make him move all of his contacts over to Google.
Yes.
he was quite happy to use the Apple, but you just couldn't play nicely. And when that happens,
man.
that's when this disconnect happens.
I've got 3 picks this week in that
Jeez,
case.
dude, I just did this keyboard download. This is
Swift
beautiful.
Key X, and it learns. It learns how you type, and it gets better.
Yeah, I love those sort of ones.
Gracious.
Just come back to your topic for a
That is
minute. I mean,
cool.
this is my problem.
That is super
My head belongs to Android when it comes to phones.
Yes.
And it could potentially swing to Windows Phone, but my heart belongs to Instagram.
Yes.
And that is the one thing that I cannot.
Well, it's coming to
shake.
Android.
Yeah, they say that, right? It's been coming to Android for over a year, and I read a great piece the other day about where they were explaining why it hasn't come to Android.
Okay.
And part of it was, like as Twitter faced the first time it got a celebrity on, and suddenly had to deal with a million people wanting to see the same tweet.
Yes.
What's happened with Instagram is Instagram suddenly found itself having to upscale ridiculously quickly as more and more people get on it, and suddenly you've got Barack Obama and
Yes.
various celebs using the service and a million people following them.
Absolutely.
So their argument, and I think it's quite sound. You might notice, when have you ever had Instagram go down? There is no Instagram fail whale equivalent. It doesn't tend to break.
No.
The reason it doesn't break
Just stops updating.
is because it works on one device.
Yeah.
And so the problem
explain
with
that. What do you mean?
well, so their argument is that they've kept working at it as an iOS only, an iPhone only app.
Right.
And they've been kept busy enough with the exponential growth of users that their argument is the problem with it with Android. Android, suddenly you have dozens of devices, you have different screen resolutions, you have this fragmentation we're talking about,
and different and
their
crap
argument
cameras
is
and good cameras.
we are more interested in the service working as we intend it to work every time than we are in trying to please
Path
people
has made it work.
outside of it. No,
It's,
sure,
it's,
but
it's
I mean,
amazing
but I
how
think-
vertical integration now wins.
Yes.
Right. I mean,
But it's
we had,
interesting, right?
but we had this before in the Unix Dex Vex world.
Exactly.
Then the Unix Ware world, and then Windows came along and said, "Hey, general purpose." Everyone on every device. This is the operating system, and it's great for developers. It's amazing in the mobile world that that's not winning yet.
No.
But Android is it's very
It's coming
successful.
together.
No, but it's very successful.
it is.
I mean, there's so many devices out there, but it's amazing that it's not totally replicating truly. But I think you know why? Because I don't think Google has clearly stood behind it.
Well, and
They've
this
almost
is,
released it and then just let it
But
fluff.
that was
and
meant to
this
be
is
part of
why
the charm,
Windows
wasn't it?
Phone might succeed, is because Microsoft has learned a hell of a lot about fragmentation. And so it's developed a model for a mobile operating system where you can still have the same operating system on multiple hardware, but where Microsoft now centrally controls the update process and is very prescriptive on the hardware requirements. And so if you're an Instagram, you're going, okay, so we're dealing with 18 different types of hardware here, but Microsoft has set a minimum spec for camera quality, for screen size, for buttons, for
Sure.
and patch deployment is to a degree centrally managed. And so it just kind of, on the one extreme, you've got iOS, which is extremely clamped down, controlled, etc. On the other end of the spectrum, you've got Android, which is completely open and fragmented. And in the middle, I think you've got Windows Phone. That strikes a pretty good balance of those two scenarios.
I looked at it, man. I mean,
I like it.
So I'm doing this gig, the startup with Albie Bester.
Yeah.
Albie Bester used to be the ex-Microsoft guy, and
Yes.
he went to PwC, and we've pulled him over to the startup that we're starting. And he walked in the other day with one of those Lumina things,
Yes.
and I looked at it. First of all, have you felt the weight of that phone
It's light. The 800.
Yeah.
compared to this? That thing's
It's
a
about
piece.
the same, I think.
There is
Don't you have
no
one in your bag?
way. That is probably the
No,
heaviest.
it's at home.
That's like double the weight of an iPhone. It's an extremely heavy, and did you see the casing is completely closed? It's a closed
Yes.
casing.
Like an iPhone.
Like an iPhone.
And it takes a microsome like an iPhone.
Yeah.
There's
But-
a lot of
and it's
there are a lot of
beautiful.
overlaps. Like an iPhone.
it's not
No,
pretty.
unlike an iPhone. Actually, I read a designer's take of
It
the
is
Lumia
beautiful,
800, and one remark he made, which I found very poignant about the aesthetic of the device, is it's clearly a European orientated design as opposed to the sort of the sort of more literal American design. So, for example, when Apple designs a bookshelf for iBooks, it looks like a Fox
Yeah.
bookshelf made of wood on your screen, whereas European designers tend to sort of immerse themselves more in the medium, and so on the Lumia it looks like it was designed for digital. It isn't trying to look like it's a leather bound diary. It just looks like a digital diary.
It's amazing how tech is not about the underlying pipes and performance and storage. It's all about look.
Yeah.
We never speak about phones anymore in terms of processor speed, memory, and storage capacity.
Yes.
It's about how light it feels.
Light and it's
and the
become
pictures that
emotional.
it takes.
So
and,
yeah, I
it's
talk about this a
astonishing.
lot. How technology's finally turned the corner that the automobile industry did years ago, and now the buying choice is emotional, and you don't care about the speeds and feeds. Like, how much RAM does your iPad have? Yeah, most people, even technical people, don't even know because it doesn't matter.
Sure.
You know, it's irrelevant now.
I think that's wonderful, though. I think it's great that we don't get bogged down in the minutiae anymore.
Definitely.
I don't care.
You know,
I just want it
there's
to
a
work.
Craig. There's a great book about this whole effect. It's called "The Rise of the Creative Class." That book is one of the. I mean, that book was 5 years ago, even
Yes.
more. The Rise of the Creative
Well,
Class.
Tom Kelly also talks about this stuff very often in his stuff. 10
Kevin
Faces of
Kelly
Innovation. Tom Kelly.
Tom Kelly. Okay.
Yeah, Kevin Kelly's. Is it Kevin Kelly from IDEO's brother? Anyway.
Okay.
Let's do our picks of the week because we are running out of time. I'm loving the conversation tonight. We've got Craig Wilson from Tech Central, Stafford Masie from all over the place. It's been
And it's been all over the place.
it's
so that's
been all
fitting.
over the place, so very fitting.
You know what I love is when people say, "Stafford, what do you do these days?"
There's our name for the show, all over the place.
All over the place.
Like, what do you do these
And
days?
then what do you
Stafford?
say? Whatever I want.
It's like, what do you do when you're retired but still active?
Whatever you want.
Yeah.
golf.
No. You don't. I mean, you're into startups. You do some professional speaking gigs.
Well, I'm
You're out there
I'm
doing
loving
stuff.
I'll let
involving
you know
myself
in
in
15
startups
years
at the
when I get
moment. And anyway,
And then you can say NFC sucks and the banks are talking crap. That's the nicest thing ever. I mean, that's the fact that you can do that. And
All
then
right.
Craig writes and Duncan writes it exactly the way you say it.
let's do our picks of the week. We'll start with you, Craig. What do you got?
All right, I've got something nice and frivolous. I've also done my homework. I've gone and made sure that you can't get it, that it hasn't appeared on the ZA Tech Show before, because that's always embarrassing. It's a game. It's for the iPad, and it's called
Yes.
Fingle.
Fingle.
Fingle, and you can find it at fingle4ipad.com.
So play on my surname.
But we'll stick a I'm sure you'll stick a link at the end of the
Yes.
this week's post for it. Anyway, so the idea is Fingle is unabashedly about flirting.
It's
The
because the
idea,
Freudian slip there.
as they say here, they
I'm
say
not single, I'm Fingle.
it's the thrills of touching each other's hands. Explore the intimate touch of each other's fingers with
My goodness
Fingle's
gracious me.
two-player puzzles.
Play the video.
So the idea is that can you play
flirt
the
by
video
playing
for people who are watching while
Yeah,
we
I'm
talk
playing
about
the video.
it? So the idea is
Whether or
that
not our guys cut to it is another question. But it's playing.
the levels get more and more complicated as you play along, and
Until you end up
really cool.
naked.
well, it's a bit like Twister for your hands, and the idea is that it also makes use of all. The iPad can support up to 10 sort of simultaneous touches.
This dude's playing it with his granny. I don't think you've pitched this right.
Well, I don't think he's pitched it right. I intend to pitch it perfectly correctly.
Not all of us have ugly
I've made sure to
grannies, so-
only play with appropriate opponents. Although it's not opponents at all, right? This is the other thing. It's one of those collaborative games, but
Yes.
it's just terribly fun.
so cool.
It's really amazing. It's just
awesome.
it's a nice
does.
harnessing of the touch capacity. You each get the idea is that you should use one hand, and you get up to 5 little blocks, and you have to try and line them up with another block, sometimes a moving block, and you have to keep it there for long enough for the screen to fill with the
Looks
sort of
amazing
circle.
on the video.
It is great fun. I played it the other night, and it is an absolute delight.
And did it end?
A gentleman never tells, Simon.
Okay. That's a yes.
So that is my
Dingle got Craig Wilson laid. No.
and imagine the fun you could have with it with the play on your name. So that is
I want
definitely
to say
my
so
pick of the
many
week.
things right now, but
Again, of course, this also plays directly into
Keep it family.
me being a very casual gamer because
Clearly.
there's nothing serious about this. This is for casual gamers looking for casual.
So,
never mind.
What
But
are
you
you
know-
saying? That you'll just fingle with anybody?
No, I won't figure with any. I'm very discerning. That's no grannies. I'm afraid.
but you know what? I think these.
They've got to be really hot grannies.
But you know
they've
what?
got to be gilfs. I believe they're called.
Okay, can we move on, guys? So
Kills.
this. I mean, I was
right.
the other day. I was actually speaking to one of my developers, and the whole notion of
So we should just
tablets.
tell you that Stafford has a herd of developers.
A herd.
Yes, they're kept.
They may be
kept
listening
locked
in on
up. He
this.
makes them kept food and fed and watered. But so one
He's
of his
got a little
developers,
developer house like Mark Zuckerberg used to have.
yeah, like an enormous
Guys
commune,
making
you know.
stuff.
Anyway,
They
so
can't
tell
make
us
eye
about your-
contact. They
your
like stale
developer.
pizza, fresh beer,
So you're hog-tied a developer
and no
and then-
sunlight. No, so I spoke to him and he says this whole notion of a tablet and multi-screening. We haven't multi-screening has not been unpacked completely yet.
Yes.
You know, where when you approach a screen with another screen, there's an interrelationship that occurs.
Yes.
And I think, like, when I look at Fingal,
Yeah.
I think it's a human to screen. But you know what I've seen? I've seen instantiations where people are putting physical objects on top of an iPad and playing the game.
So
Where,
I've
where the
got that for
game
my
moves.
kids. They've got the Cars game where
Yeah.
you get the different Cars characters. You put it on the iPad screen, and
Now that's
Crazy.
so there's something there. We don't know what it is, but there is something
well,
there.
I know
right?
what it is. It's a fantastic way to keep your 3-year-old busy.
Okay. I'm gonna wait for my
I
pick
bought
of the
it,
week.
but I bought it in the States. It's $20. It's a fantastic idea. $20 at the Apple Store. The app itself is free. You download it. It's the Cars franchise from Disney, and then you get the different Cars characters. And what they've done is they've configured different touch points at the bottom of each car. So when you put it on the screen, the game knows which character's on the screen.
Right.
So if it's Lightning McQueen or if it's Mater or
See, the point here is, like, you take a step back from it and you think, architecturally, what does this mean?
Yes.
From a business perspective, what does this mean? From an entertainment perspective, what does this mean? I think it's huge. I think it's, if you come with a certain device and you put it on the screen, there's a different reaction than just this biological.
Of course, they also have Skylanders, which just, like, for 3-year-olds, the Cars thing's cool. Skylanders is crack.
Right. So I think there's something in there.
Yeah.
Something.
All right. Do you have a pick this week, Stafford?
I've got a couple.
Okay.
I like the announcement of Connect and the Open SDK now.
Yes.
I really, really dig that. And I also like the fact that they're working on laptop integration for Connect. I think,
Yes.
you know, a laptop, both the built-in Connect capability is going to be sick. I mean,
So you're talking about Open Connect?
yes.
OpenConnect.org. Okay.
Yeah, Open Connect. No, the Open Connect is that's the open source derivative of Microsoft Connect. Microsoft released the SDK.
Official Connect SDK versus
Yeah.
open source
Correct, yeah.
alternatives.
So there's
Okay.
two. There's the open source project, which is a complete hack of Connect, and then the other one is Microsoft's SDK released for Connect. Oh, and people are augmenting it all. I mean, one of my devs did this the other day. I mean, how's this, right? I'm not going to say names, but it's a girl that's mute. She doesn't have
Yes,
the
you told
ability.
us about this before.
Yeah,
it's-
where she walks up to the Connect and she acted before the SDK was released, and she's doing sign language in front of Connect, and it's doing in real time a render of what she's doing in
And
sign
how
language in
accurate is
English.
it? Getting there.
It's like 90%.
Wow.
It's good enough.
Okay.
Like if she was doing a Skype session and using Connect, she could speak literally to someone on the other side with no problem.
Wow.
Literally.
Okay.
And if she does it really, really slowly, it's even, I mean, it gets close to 100%.
Wow. Okay.
I think that's one of the coolest hacks that I've seen for Connect. But Connect in the laptop for me is one of my picks. The other pick, and this is my second, I won't go through all of them. It's something that, you know, I was on with Udo on 702 over the weekend,
Yes.
and I mentioned it, and I want to mention it again. I think we need to get more people to code. You know,
Yeah.
Brett Ski said it the other day, Brett Haggard. He said, I want to code. Where do I go? I pointed him
We're about
to,
to talk about code here.
yeah.
How amazing is this? Anyway, you go on.
Okay,
I love
cool.
this though.
Okay,
This is so
so
exciting.
if anyone that's listening, go to codeyear.com.
Okay.
Code is CODE year, YEAR. .com. Codeyear.com. The person that gave Codeyear.com its whole drive was Mayor Bloomberg. Bloomberg announced in December his New Year's resolution was, I don't know if this is New Year's resolution, but he just announced that he was going to learn how to code.
Okay.
Because, I mean, his whole big drive to make New York now the
Yes.
tech hub of the world. He agreed they were going to, and I love it. Go to codeyear.com. If you want to share with your kids, with family members that want to learn how to code, Bretsky journalists, just go to codeyear.com.
I've signed up.
Enter your name,
doing
and they
it, yeah.
send you a mail once a week, and you learn how to code in JavaScript. Basic
So
stuff.
the idea
man.
is for a year, every week they send you one lesson. They're cumulative.
Awesome.
You can go back. You can look up the old ones. We're on week 6 or 7 now, and the idea is that at the end of a year, you'll have a pretty decent rudimentary knowledge
I love
of
that.
how to code.
So for
Okay.
me, that was like the
Brilliant.
I'm
coolest
going to
thing.
sign up.
This is one of those things
Email.
like it's a bit like financial sense, right? These are the sorts of things they should be teaching at school instead of wasting your time with guidance and IR and I don't know the other things that
Code's the new Latin.
that you used to call freebies.
Code's the
New
new
Latin.
Latin.
I like that a lot, right? Because I did Latin at school. I'm
Yeah.
betraying my age, but I was just old enough to get away with Latin at school. But exactly, this is the kind of stuff they should be teaching, and I think it's inspired. And the way that it works, and it's modular, and they don't overwhelm you. It's just a little incremental step every week, and the idea is that obviously, they're going to be people who are going to do half of it, and then they're going to get bored, and they're going to drop out. Fine. But, for every one of those, there's going to be someone who's going to get so into it and so
Correct.
excited that within a year, they will be they'll be a bona fide developer because they will go and they will read outside of the Codia lessons and they will get really interested. I think it's
Craig's just like hijacked your pick completely.
I have, but that's because Stafford was going around and around and around, and we just needed some focus. Now, all right, gentlemen, take over again.
No, but you know what the cool thing is?
The sun's going to rise soon.
Learn how to program before they learn how to program you. I love that little quote underneath that.
Absolutely,
But I do think Codia.com is really cool.
I want to learn Objective-C though. I love JavaScript.
Objective-C, go to YouTube. There's tons of videos on it. But Codia.com and so
and there's another one as well, isn't there?
Code Academy. Is another one. But Code Academy is the guys that are doing Codia.com.
Yeah.
But tomorrow I have a meeting with the Advotech guys. Advotech is a group company that represents like the higher privileged kids. It's got Drakensberg Boys Choir. It's got, Crawford College. And I'm approaching them tomorrow with a proposal to do kids coding camp.
Yeah.
So we actually want to take kids away for a 2-week period, and the term breaks, and every rich kid sponsors a poor kid.
Oh,
and
nice.
we take them away, and they go learn how to code for 2 weeks. And when they leave there, they'll be able to do mobile apps, etc., etc. And I want to get this done in the next term break with Advotech. So tomorrow the meeting happens, and I'm very, very excited about it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let me quickly do my picks. I'll do 3 quick mobile apps. 1 for Android, 2 for iOS. The first one, let's make it an iOS pick, is Pizza vs. Skeletons, which is a game that...
how's that for elevating the picks?
Which is a game that came out...
I thought it was Fingal. I mean, in fairness, this...
So it's an amazing game. It was developed for the iOS platform from the ground up. You just have to try it. I could describe it to you and you wouldn't understand. You're a big pizza and skeletons are all over the place and you have to take them out. The gameplay is ingenious, I thought. What I love about it is that they've... it's not like Angry Birds where the levels change, but it's the same sort of dynamic. They come up with new things in each level. So the one you have to rescue puppies or... Okay, don't worry about that. Don't get bogged down in that. And then staying with iOS, the other app I'll pick is the official Gmail app for iOS. Get rid of that mail
it's good,
app.
Right?
Get Gmail.
I'm not going to hijack this, I promise. But I second that.
Yeah.
I'll put a little plus in front of that.
The Gmail app is amazing. It connects with Gmail. It lets you do things like view your important and unread mail and do all of your starring and categorizing the way that you've learned to do it on Gmail. Also, cool things like being able to scribble and it'll attach the image to a Gmail message.
All the Android folks are yawning right now.
No, I know. But if you're an iPhone user but you use Google Apps or Gmail, then go for it. And then I'll end off with SwiftKey X, which we've already discussed in the show. Stafford's just installed it.
It's insane.
It's probably the best Android keyboard I've used. It is beautiful. It also learns, as the more you type, the more it learns your style. There are various ways to configure the keyboard. So if you're not loving your Android keyboard, check out SwiftKey X, although I think it's pretty familiar with most Android users already.
I was just thinking, I know you're going to have to kind of just come back to it next week. The one thing we forgot to talk about that did happen this week was the Mountain Lion developer release, which is not very interesting. Who cares? It's an incremental update that they're going to charge you $30 for. It's not very exciting. But what is exciting, I think, or interesting, is messages, or the iMessage equivalent coming to desktop.
Yes.
I think that is quite novel. I've been using it. I really like it. It means that I can talk to my mom for free to her iPad from my desktop instead of having to do it from my phone, which is quite fun.
iMessenger is awesome, and I love the way that it will determine. Yeah, I see who's hijacking pics now.
No, good.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm glad.
But that it'll determine whether the person you're messaging is available on iMessage, and if not, it'll send them an SMS. Now that's smart.
That is,
because while
You don't have to think
iMessage
about
traps you in the Apple sort of ecosystem, at least it breaks out when your friend buys an Android phone.
And the reverse, right? When you think you're SMSing someone and then suddenly it goes, oh no, this person has an iDevice. I'll just make it an iMessage.
What I really
satisfying
want...
blue text message.
What I really want is a message app that I say, okay, I'm going to send a message to Stafford, and it goes, all right, is he available on WhatsApp, iMessenger? Should I send him an SMS, maybe a Google Talk message, and picks the best one and just sends you a message.
Or eventually, should I just write it across his retina?
Let's make that app.
Yeah.
What are your developers doing tonight, Stafford?
They definitely are listening.
Grab that last bottle of wine and let's go talk.
No, we're not drinking wine. We're drinking cocoa.
Cocoa. You're going to have to hide that bottle.
I hate to
You're not doing a very
There's a
convincing
friend of
job.
mine that's actually called Coco. Well, yeah, it's a friend of a friend called Coco in New York.
It's getting silly.
I need a friend called Red Wine then. Just to balance things out.
Yeah, no, you needed something to balance your fingling.
Fingling.
Anyway, yeah, the messages on iOS, I think that's the most exciting thing about mountain, snow, panda, leopard, tiger, lion.
You know what? I've got a great idea.
We should say goodnight.
Let's call it a night. This has been
Thank you,
fun,
Simon.
guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Episode number 199 of the ZA Tech Show, featuring Craig Wilson from Tech Central. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
At Craig Wilson on Twitter.
That's right.
And check out techcentral.co.za. Stafford, are you still at S. Masie?
At Stafford, Masie.
At Stafford Masie, okay.
Yeah.
Stafford
Except
with two
you say
Fs.
Masie, he says Masie.
I know. I just love the way he just
Sorry,
ignores
Stafford
that.
Masie.
I was going to say, well, the Americans do. Stafford
Don't say it like
Masie.
you're
All
from
right
Cape
then,
Town, because I'm not
Stafford
either. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for being here, dude. It's
No,
good to have
no.
you back on the show. It's been a while.
Thank you. We don't do it enough.
No, we don't.
We don't.
And next week, are you having champagne for show number 200?
We might have a surprise or two.
You know what? If I'm on that show, I'll bring the champagne. If you
Okay.
want.
I will
Rad.
not be on that show. I will be abroad.
Let's just get everybody who's ever been on the show
Yeah.
into the studio.
There we go.
Sorry, I
We'd have to
can't.
get hold of Mark Shuttleworth there. It'd be difficult. But not impossible.
It's important to have goals.
We'd only have like 400 people, yeah. All right. Yes, next week's episode 200. I can't believe we've done 200. We've done this 200 times.
It doesn't feel like a show anymore. It feels like we're just on a patio somewhere, just having
Well, that's the idea,
a
man.
couple of drinks and just chatting.
That's the idea. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for watching for 200 episodes if you've done that. There are all sorts of comments I could make, which I just shouldn't. But we love you. Thanks for watching. This was the ZA Tech Show. Made possible by Vodacom, of course. Power to you at vodacom.co.za. And we'll be back next week with episode 200. Cheers.